Welcome back to the Recovery After Party. I'm Joe Hakama.
And I'm Eric Baker.
This is our guest today, Derek.
So I met you doing the Recovery Blitz.
That's correct,
And
yes.
then I was like, oh man, it would be perfect to have Derek Russ on the Recovery After Party.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah. So what is your position at the DEA?
Currently, I'm the assistant special agent in charge I'm seated out of our Grand Rapids district office, but I oversee Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo. Grand Rapids covers the Muskegon area, so out here in Manistee, Traverse City, which is that whole region up there. I've got Flint and the areas that Flint covers all the way up in the thumb there, and then I also cover the Upper Peninsula with Marquette, the Sioux, Menominee, Manistee, all those.
Okay, and then what got you interested in working for the DEA?
Well, I came from a little bit of a law enforcement background. My father was a Phoenix police officer, obviously with Phoenix, Arizona, for approximately 30 years, retired out of there. When I was a child, I would see my dad come home in his uniform, sometimes stop by on a lunch break in his squad car, and it was a lot of pride seeing my dad walk up in that uniform, and I always told him I wanted to be a police officer, and that message kind of went all the way through in high school where I said, you know what, I still want to do law enforcement. And my dad was like, well, if you're going to be in law enforcement, don't be a police officer, be a federal agent. They get to have more fun. They get to travel. They get the big cases and all that. Why don't you try for that? So he was kind of my driving force in my ear towards going into federal law enforcement back then. And I just stuck to it. I went to Arizona State University and graduated from there. And during the process, back then, I only knew of the FBI. Well, you heard of the FBI, you heard of the U.S. Marshals. I didn't know about all these other three-letter acronyms that were out there, the DEA, the ATF. Right around the time I graduated, 9/11 happened, so you had the Air Marshals popping up. So you had all these other different federal agencies, and I really had to kind of take a look back then as to what I saw myself doing. And you hear that the FBI guys, they do a lot of computer work behind the desk. They don't really get out much, that sort of thing. I wanted to be the kind of person to be out in the streets, to be active, and not have to sit behind a computer all day long. So DEA was at the top of my list. And at the time I was living in Pittsburgh, and I applied out of the Philadelphia Field Division office, and later moved back to Phoenix, Arizona to be close to family, and moved my whole application process back there, and the rest is history. That was back in, I applied back in 2001, literally the same month as 9/11, September of 2001, and then DEA hired me. I was informed, actually, while I was a substitute teacher in English and journalism class. They gave me a call towards the end of the school year out there saying, hey, guess what? You're going to report to the Quantico Academy in August of 2003. It's like, yeah, all right. So that was what kind of began the process with DEA in particular. It was just having that love for law enforcement at an early age. And
That's crazy. My career started in 2003 as well. That's the first time I got locked up. Do the DEA have different lights than police, though, right? They just have the blue ones?
Well, we have the red and blues.
Oh, yeah.
They're a little bit more hidden in our vehicles. We've got the unmarked vehicles with the tenting and all that, and lights that are kind of positioned strategically so as to be hidden.
Yeah.
So we typically don't like to use our lights too often because obviously that burns our unmarked vehicles. So we typically try to partner up with local law enforcement and maybe have a police unit out there. So if we do need to make a traffic stop, we might call in Michigan State Police,
that's smart,
Muskegon PD, whoever, to make that stop so that we don't blow. And that was just a practice that I've always adhered by. I started my career out in Sierra Vista, Arizona, which is a really small town near the Mexican border. And the first vehicle they gave me was a red Mustang.
Oh, yeah.
Out in the middle of the desert. It stood out like a sore thumb. So if I would have used my lights off and out there, it would have been
done.
Common knowledge in that area that red Mustang was a police vehicle or unmarked.
So in the DEA, do you do any, well, obviously you're on camera, so you probably don't do undercover work yourself.
Not anymore.
But you used to.
I used to.
That's
yes. Yes. It's part of every agent's training and trade to have that undercover experience at some point in our careers. So we have our diversion side of the house too with DEA. So we have our special agents that run enforcement groups, but then we also have a diversion group that targets pharmaceutical pills. The diversion investigators, they don't carry guns. They mostly just go into pharmacies and doctor's office and just make sure that they're complying with DEA policy, because every office has a DEA registration number.
Yeah.
And if you're violating that, they can go through administratively and yank that number to where you can't prescribe pills anymore or sell, as a pharmacy. But we do have tactical units between the agents and diversion investigators. And there was a time in Phoenix where I sat in one of these tactical units, and we were working doctor cases, doctors that wouldn't even look at you and write you a prescription for 100 oxys, sort of a thing.
Them used to be my favorite doctors.
Yeah. So we get tips on these doctors in the Phoenix area, and it was big back then. I'm talking probably 2012 to 2015. It was pretty easy to find some of these clinics that was just
Norco.
Yeah, all you had to do was just hand $50 cash to the receptionist, and the doctor would just be sitting there typing on his computer, wouldn't even turn around and look at you and say, "Hey, what are you feeling?" "Oh, my knee aches. I've got a neck ache. I could really use some Oxy." Next thing you know, he's writing you 100 Oxy 30s and then maybe throw in some
Methadone or
Xanax or something like that on top of it for you, and off you go, sort of a thing. And it was really easy just to find any pharmacy to go and fill it. So I was going in as an undercover for those, just exploiting some of these doctors' practices to show that they weren't actually giving any sort of medical treatment whatsoever, and they were just pumping drugs out to the community.
Slanging them out the back door, pretty much.
Exactly.
So I hear the word informant, and it makes me think of like people that get in trouble with the law, right? And then they go to like the agents and try to get leniency on their, I guess their court case. Is it for informants? Is it always they're trying to like work off like a charge, or do you guys have like informants that are just out there
Getting paid?
Well, we got a bit of both.
Okay.
We got informants that do like to get paid. I used to have a great informant that she made her career out of literally just doing that. And this was, again, back in our Arizona days. She would come out and we would find a particular problem area, and we're like, okay, there's got to be a crime boss, a figurehead here that's running the show. Go and find out for us. She would just go into an area cold, find 15, 20 people just like that would be willing to sell to her, and the next thing you know, we've identified a whole network. And we would pay informants like that for being able to not only get us the intelligence for that area, but to be able to go in and do, in a sense, on a kind of undercover work with us at the control of DEA. But we do occasionally get, not occasionally, we do sometimes get those confidential sources that want to work off whatever, whether it doesn't even have to necessarily be with us. They could have been arrested by some other department, and they want to be able to try to improve their situation and be able to work with law enforcement. So they'll come to DEA or one of the other agencies to be able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I just got back from a vacation, and I did a lot of fishing out there. It was you got to return it, but it was out at Lake Snepahoe, out off of Russell Road out there. Okay. So there was a lot of nature and stuff out there that helped with coping mechanisms for me. Things that I can do not to use and things like that. But nature's always been a good one for me, and blowing things up. So
yeah, the focus on getting that line out there, and then just the calmness of being out there. There's a lot of meditative.
Yeah, especially in the space I work in. I left chaos to start a business that is all chaos because I'm still dealing with the same stuff, But yeah, it's good to go fill your cup that way with nature a lot.
Yeah, everybody handles stress differently.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that right now. There's no two people that are alike in, this country, this world, and not everybody's able to handle that the way, the way that you would want or maybe expect. And some people have to lean on other things, whether it's narcotics or alcohol is also, something up that's something a lot of us.
Actually, alcohol is one of the worst ones. That and benzodiazepines are the only two withdrawals you can actually die from. So, alcohol is pretty bad. When I first got into recovery 6 years ago, a little over that now, I used to make fun of the people in AA. Oh, alcohol. And then once I started actually a business and doing recovery and learning along the way, I learned that you could die from that. And I'm like, oh, maybe they are just the same as me.
I lost an uncle who had a severe alcohol. Probably he was an alcoholic, and he would drink a whole case a day.
Yeah.
And he would operate. He would drive us around.
Yeah.
And this was out in Texas, where my mom grew up. Every time I go visit out in the summer, he'd drive us to all these creeks and ponds, and we'd catch fish. He'd have nets set up to catch turtles and eat and all that. But he'd be behind the wheel with his whole case of beer in the middle seat, and we'd be riding in the bed of his truck, and it was like that was
Normalized.
his IV. That was water for him to keep moving. But he ultimately succumbed pretty fast to all that alcohol.
Ooh, here's a good one. So, how has technology changed the drug trade? I know, when I was getting out of my addiction, people were starting to use Cash App a little bit, things like that. But my person that suffers from substance use disorder brain side is like, why would I Cash App my dealer money? That's so trackable. So is that true? Do you guys catch a lot of people that way?
Yeah, we catch a lot of people through a lot of the different, Cash App's the big one that comes to everybody's mind. We do have access with a lot of these companies to be able to track that. And plus, you always leave a digital trail.
Mm-hmm.
There are these wallets that you can follow, and digital codes, IP addresses, all that eventually gets us to whatever bank accounts that are associated with it, and to be able to track it that way. So technology has played.
Don't do it.
Technology does play a big thing nowadays. A lot of people are using those services or getting onto the dark web.
I heard about that. I have a friend that mentored me a lot through early recovery, and he had a relapse, and he was telling me he was ordering all of his benzos and stuff like that online, and he ended up going through such severe withdrawals. He went into the hospital. It was crazy, but he was telling me that he was getting them on the black web. I'm like, what?
Oh, yeah.
That's crazy. You don't got to go down to the corner no more.
You can find a lot of stuff on the black or on the dark web, but we've got, and it might have taken the government a little bit. We always move a little bit slower than most, whether it's with technology, software, whatever the case, methods, catching up to that. But I think the whole Bitcoin rage is what kind of drew our attention to all this. What would have been about a decade or 15 years ago when Bitcoin started on the scene. And then we started noticing a lot of trends with some of our higher up drug traffickers using Bitcoin as a means for currency and exchanging. And we had a couple big cases, Operation Silk Road, that targeted Bitcoin itself, and we were able to end up seizing billions of dollars out of that whole thing. But that just kind of opened up the whole thing for us. We're like, okay, well, we need to get more people into the agency that are more proficient with cyberspace and all that. So we're hiring a lot of people nowadays that have that background in web pages and know how to operate in that realm. That's something that's completely over my head. I'll be honest with you right now. I'm a dinosaur at this point. I got on 23 years ago, and it was a lot different scene back then. It was still, cash for pretty much, and you still see some cash nowadays, but there is a lot of this whole cyberspace, cryptocurrency stuff So we're bringing in more people that have that cryptocurrency knowledge and that dark web knowledge to be able to attack the forums that way.
And what about social media? Has that had an impact? Like, you guys catching a lot of people from that? Because, I mean, I know I see on Facebook all the time, like, oh, who needs this or who needs that? I'm always, first thought in my mind is, you are stupid.
Well,
but then I remember back to my own addiction, and I'm sure if I went back into one of my many old Facebooks that I have 12 of for some reason, if I go back and look, that I was making statuses like that too. So it's funny to get the other side of it.
Yeah, no, social media is still a prevalent thing out there for the drug trafficking world, and I couldn't tell you how many cases we began just by one of our agents just happening to stumble across a Facebook page showing guns and money in the same photo, and bragging about seeing a kilo of coke and stuff like that. So
I seen somebody get busted when I lived in Fruitport when I first got clean. I think I was like 2 months clean, and the ATF maybe kicked his door in because he had a Facebook. He was a felon, and he had a Facebook picture with like an automatic weapon or something.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, what are the odds of that? Like, I would expect my door to get kicked in, and this guy's living right next door to me doing crazy stuff. So, have you encountered anyone years later that completely changed around their life that you can think of? Have you had any success stories like that?
I did, and this was actually going back to Tucson. So I began my career 2 years in Sierra Vista. I spent 6 years in Tucson, 7 years, and then 3 years in Phoenix. And then I went to D.C., where I worked out of our headquarters doing foreign wire intercepts with that. But back in the Tucson days, I caught somebody that he was probably like more of a half-pound heroin dealer, and he was using heroin back then, and it was his first time getting caught by anybody, and he was you could tell he was just a very sociable guy, somebody who really wanted to work on himself. And when that happened, he had a wife, he had 2 kids. Of course, things with his wife were extremely rocky because of what he was doing, but us coming in, and he's getting arrested by the DEA, he was obviously stressed out, freaked out over it, and I was like, to me, this was my case. I was like, I don't want to take you in. I need you to give me information in order to do this. So he actually he worked with us. We ended up utilizing him as an informant for a little bit of time, not that long, but enough that he was able to get us on to the next person up, and we worked a successful investigation with that, and it ended up working out for him to where he just had probation. He didn't have to do any jail time, and it worked out with his family. And during that time, he worked really hard at working as a construction worker, manual labor, stuff like that. I kept in contact with him throughout this whole time. He would call me often, not as an informant, but just as, hey, what's going on? I'm trying to keep away from this stuff. I just want you to know I'm still working hard. Hey, is there anything that you can think of that I can do and he was he was kind of one of those people that just needed to do stuff all the time, So I played hardball back then, and he apparently, when he was in high school and college, was a big baseball player, and he used to play in Sinaloa leagues all the time back when he lived in Mexico. So I played in a hardball league, and I actually invited him to play on our team, and he and I would hang out every Sunday together. We'd go have lunch afterwards. He'd tell me how he was doing with his business. I just felt like it was a very calming thing for him to be able to go out, have those different resources. Those, for you, it's being out in nature maybe and going fishing. For him, it was having that camaraderie out in the baseball diamond and getting to interchange with everybody and just keep them busy with a sport, having something in their lives to be able to focus on.
Yeah, that's
And-
called idle hands. When you got idle
Yes.
hands, it's bad. It's all.
So, and that was for me, it was my first eye-opening experience for somebody, trying to recover. And, something in my younger career I never really thought of until then was, okay, the impact you can have on individual lives if you take the time to just, get to the root with them or give them opportunities to try to get themselves better. Not everybody will respond the same. Not everybody's able to stay on the path and might fall off, but it's always great when you see those success stories.
Or it might
And
fall off 52 times.
no, but I mean, you guys see it day in and day out, both sides of the house. So I'm sure that, when you guys see those success stories on your end, and you guys see them all the time, that it
It's good to keep
tickles your
going.
heart, man. It gives you the goosebumps.
When I do business development, I always tell a story of a family that started with us in the very beginning 4 years ago. I was still in the basement of Lifeline, which is another nonprofit drop-in center, RCO here. And this guy would come in every time dirty, every time late, sometimes even a week late, and $1 short, and a day wrong day. And he did this for consecutively for like a year and a half. And then when we got our own building, he came over and he's like, "All right, Joe, I'm ready." And I'm like, "Okay, let's try this again," because this is multiple times trying with him. And I was able to get him into treatment. He got clean. From treatment, I was able to get him into a recovery house, and then from that recovery house to another one. And now him, his wife, his son, and his son's aunt and wife are all got clean through our program, and that's like a huge success story that I use that in the back of my mind when I see people, or when I feel that maybe it's because we work with some providers that provide medication, addiction medicine for our people. So sometimes I might be in an argument with them, and that's always what keeps me going. I'm like, no, we got to give these people another chance, because if you don't, they might die. And I mean, that's the facts of it today. If you aren't getting multiple chances and multiple tries and being shown the right way, you're probably gonna die with fentanyl and xylazine and all that stuff out there. It's terrible. You don't know what you're getting nowadays. It's at least back even when I was allegedly selling, I never put any type of cut in my stuff that would kill somebody. It was always like Nesitol or something like that. It was never. Nowadays, it doesn't even make sense from a business perspective to do that. Like, you're killing off all of your clients. Like, why are you doing that? It just never made sense to me to do any of that. And then you're creating worse. They get rid of one thing and then they add something else into it. That xylazine that eats you from like the inside out. You see people's bones. I've seen it many, many times. Like, holy crap.
Yeah, necrosis.
So it's a scary world out there now. I'm always constantly like, what's gonna be next? Half this stuff now, Narcan doesn't even work on xylazine or what's it called? You know it?
Medetomidine.
That one.
Rhinotrank.
Yeah, Rhinotrank. Yeah, which is even crazier. It's veterinary stuff that knocks out elephants and rhinos and like, whoa.
And you're putting that into your body. Yeah, that's scary to think of.
So if Hollywood made a movie, who would play you?
Oh, good Lord. I've had somebody ask me that question before. Did you ever see the movie Nobody?
No.
With Bob Odenkirk, or Better Call Saul?
Oh, I know
Yeah.
what you're talking. That'd be you?
I picture him as me. Yeah.
Isn't he crazy in that movie?
Oh yeah. I love that. I love that guy's sense of humor too.
Dude, yeah, he was real good in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Yep.
And two, I wanted to ask you. Said you worked with younger kids, and is there anything that we could let the parents know, like to watch out in like text messaging?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we throw up. And if you go onto DEA.gov, we've got all these different sites
Lucas
that you
will
can
link
pull
that
on.
below if you click to DEA.gov.
Or justthinktwice.com. Some of those. We've got our Fentanyl Free America campaign going, but in that, we passed them out during the DEA Blitz, or not DEA Blitz, but the Blitz, the community Blitz, in which DEA jumped in with you guys on, where we had the sheet full of different emojis that kids use as code for whether they want cough syrup or Percocet. or
And that's on
Xanax
your
or stuff like-
website?
Yeah, that's on the website
So those
too.
will all be linked below, guys. If you click on them, that way you can get a picture and kind of watch your kids' text messages to them.
And that's, we ask for parents to have those tough talks. We know it's going to be awkward. We know that, for those parents that like to be best friends with their kids, it's tough, but to save a life, to make sure your kids are all right, you got to get nosy. You got to have those hard conversations, and you got to invade a little bit of privacy by looking in their phones and seeing what they're texting their friends, because, that could be the difference between life and death sometimes.
My kids lived through our addiction with us, so I've always been, since I've gotten clean, I've always been very open, because my kids like to tell me, you were way better when you were on drugs because you didn't make us do anything. I'm like, that's not better. But they knew what was going on. Like, they've told me, like, I knew when you were going in the walk-in closet with Mom, you guys were in there doing drugs, or I've seen it, and things I didn't even think they picked up on. So, yeah.
Kids are really perceptive.
Yeah,
I'll tell
they
you that right now.
Yeah, they definitely are. So, did you ever have a moment when you thought to yourself, I can't believe this is actually my job? Like, I picture you in, like the Bad Boys scene, like shootouts and stuff like that. Is that what you're doing? No?
Not many shootouts.
No?
In fact,
Dang it.
yeah. No, I've been shot at,
Oh,
but I can honestly say I've never had to fire my gun.
never.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Normally when you pull out a gun, it's usually a deterrent enough
Yeah.
for most people to just stop right there, know how serious it is, and they're going to give up. But, the times I've been fired at were, the wild, wild west days down in Arizona, chasing cartel members who were trying to haul ass back to the Mexican border, and having snipers over on the Mexican side take pop shots at your vehicles.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So those were usually occasions that,
Probably before you had kids, huh?
yeah, before I
Yeah.
had, maybe a little after, but, it's all circumstantial with our job.
That's why I don't tell my wife nothing I do on my bike, because she made me get rid of it.
Yeah, but no, I always look at how fortunate I've been to make it up, because it was a tough process to try to get in, and not everybody makes it in as a DEA agent. We're a small agency. We've got maybe 4,500 agents across the world, and so that's not a ton. So whenever an opening pops up, it's usually a few hundred to maybe a couple thousand people that are trying to put in for these openings.
Because it's like elite position. Like, you got to be top of your game to get into DEA, right?
Yeah, or you just got to impress the recruiters out in these areas. It just so happened that the recruiter in Phoenix, where I ultimately finished the process, he loved my enthusiasm. He loved how hard I pushed myself. One of the things that we go through when we test is a physical fitness test. And in Phoenix, in the middle of summer, my test was in July, and most of the test is outdoors. So you're talking 115, 120 degree weather, and you're having to do a 2-mile run around a high school track. And I did that run, and I pushed myself to the very limit, to the point where I got back and collapsed on a bleacher, and he and another agent were having to pour water on top of me because I was burning up and almost suffering from heat exhaustion, sort of a thing. So, but
we're hiring this guy.
Yeah, he's like, this guy just went all out, man. I got to give him something. So, no, he was one of those kind of agents, as a recruiter, but also as an agent himself, who just had put the pedal to the floor in everything that he did, and he wanted to see that same thing out of the recruits coming through. So I think he recognized that quality about me and pushed me through, and so I feel very blessed that I got that. Otherwise, I probably would have been a police officer. At the time, I was testing with Phoenix PD and Scottsdale PD and San Diego, and looking at whatever other opportunities. Back then, it was very competitive to become a police officer. Nowadays, it's a lot different atmosphere. I think with the media and everything, that police culture has kind of changed, and there are a lot of younger people nowadays that aren't looking forward to becoming a police officer. It isn't at the top of their
I think
list.
it's
And you have to have a
crazy.
certain special kind of person nowadays to really want to be a police officer. So it is a little crazy.
I think it's crazy when people get pulled over and they're just recording. Like, dude, are you trying to push somebody's buttons? Like, for me, I grew up in a time where, like, I didn't really want to talk to the police, and they probably didn't really want to talk to me. So let's just get this over with. But like, to me, like, I see someone pull out a camera, like, you're just asking for more problems now. Like, why not just give them your license, get on with it, and move on. I've always also been that guy, like, when I'm caught, I'm caught. Look, you got me. I remember I got an assault one time, and it was like 3 weeks later, and the cop came to talk to me about it, and I just opened the door. I was like, yep, I know why you're here. I did it. And I just turned right around. Go, put him on, let's go. But, you know, I was also a runner, too, so I do get that. But I don't understand people doing all the recording and trying to just make it difficult. It's
Nowadays,
so stupid.
everywhere we go, we expect somebody to be recording with a phone.
That's actually how I stay sober, too, is I pretend that everywhere I go there's a camera on me. So I don't do nothing out of character.
I got a question, Derek. So, what would if you could give advice to somebody that was still struggling with drugs or alcohol? What would it be?
Somebody who's still struggling with drugs or alcohol, don't give up. That's the thing. You don't give up. You got to keep pushing. I know it's not a simple process for a lot of people to just say, I'm going to stop using drugs and then stick to that. You know, a lot of people, it was 50 something times,
52,
52 times. You know, there were 52 times where you made that decision that I'm going to stop. And then, you know, it was a struggle for you, and you found yourself doing it again. But you never gave up.
No.
I mean, that's the bottom line, is you just got to keep pushing yourself and just surround yourself with the right people.
And then keeping that
is
same
such a
stuff, too.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
find great peer recovery coaches like yourselves, those people that can help mentor you and
Guide you.
help you when you stumble. Friendships are just such like key strengths nowadays. That's something that I always try to tell my kids: have the right friends.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on the Recovery After Party.
So you guys will copy all those links down below, and I think they'll be able to be clicked on throughout the show as well. And then if you want to connect with Samaritan Way, you can catch us at SamaritanRCO.org or stop in New Muskegon location, 1465 East Apple. Manistee is 50 Filer Street, Manistee. And then Greenville is 115.5 Lafayette Street.
Yeah, and if you want to get on the Recovery After Party, we are going to put the form underneath on a link. So just stay tuned and, put your application in. We'd love to hear from you.
Shout out, fill out the form.